How do you do? Children are often afraid of the dark. Adults are afraid of a different kind of darkness, the kind that nearly drove the man in this story to seek the very thing he feared. He didn't know these stirring words. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? Fear disappeared when his heart and mind and life were unshackled.
Young man, I have a revelation for you.
Shokran, tell me.
Are you married?
Yes.
I heard you praying in Arabic and your accent is not correct.
But I am from Iran. Farsi is my native language, not Arabic.
This is the holy place of Ibrahim, and it is written in the Hadith that if somebody prays at this place and his pronunciation is not 100% correct, the penalty is he should divorce his wife. Now, you must divorce your wife.
I left my wife and son to come here to worship, and this is my reward?
It is written.
I was born in Iran, and our people speak the Farsi language, so the true God would understand me. And if he doesn't understand me, then the one we worship is not God, and you can kill me if you want.
Proclaiming the good news to a troubled world, this is Unshackled. True life stories of real people, dramatized and produced in Chicago by Pacific Garden Mission. Devoured by the deception that nobody cares, homeless people live on the ragged edge of hope, often slipping into despair. But folks at Pacific Garden Mission have cared ever since George and Sarah Clark opened a little storefront mission back in 1877. The doors have never closed, and today, thanks to generous friends who send financial gifts, the mission offers food, fresh clothing, a safe place to sleep to hundreds of men, women, and children. Even medical and dental treatments are given free to resident guests. All this is kind, but doesn't change their lives. To that end, pastors and counselors share the good news that brings hope, living water for parched and thirsty souls. Now, for broadcast around the earth, here's program number 3195 in the series Unshackled, the program that makes you face yourself and think.
Firuz, what are you doing home? You're supposed to be in Mecca.
I left the Hajj early.
Why?
Because an imam told me to divorce you.
What?
It's true. He heard me praying in the holy place of Ibrahim and told me my accent was wrong. He said it is written in the hadiths, if a man's pronunciation is not correct, the penalty is he should divorce his wife.
I never heard of that.
He could have killed me for challenging the law, but he just walked away, and I immediately flew back home.
This is unbelievable.
Do you want a husband or a religious man? If you want a religious man, I have to divorce you.
I want a husband.
Then we forget about Islam.
How fearless of the man in our story, but there would be consequences that he describes in this, the true testimony of a man we're calling Firuz, right now on Unshackled.
I was born in Iran into a family so devoted to Islam that my father, who was a businessman, built the mosque across the street from where we lived. As a child, I had a towering fear of death because funeral services were filled with hopelessness and despair. I prayed earnestly that I would die before anyone in my family, so I wouldn't worry about them after their deaths. When I was 6, my father introduced me to the imam, who was the mosque leader, and I asked him how much I should pray and fast so I would go to heaven. He said, "Just follow me." The fear of death never left me, but when I was 10, my father took me on a business trip to Tehran, where I met Jasmina. She was only 6, but her beauty stole my heart. I wrote her expressing my love in poetry, but she didn't answer. I never forgot Jasmina, And when I was 18 and a student at the University of Tehran, I visited her family and spoke with Jasmina.
Yes, I sort of remember you, Firuz.
I wrote you letters, Jasmina, but you never answered.
Well, I couldn't read. My mother told me only recently how they laughed when your letters came.
I would like to see you now that I am in university nearby.
I have to study so much. I don't do well in school, especially math.
I can tutor you. I was an honor student in high school, especially math.
I'll ask my father. My grades in math are much better, Firuz. I earn top marks in the exams.
I knew you could do it, Jasmina. And I also know we can have a good life together. Jasmina? What are you drawing?
Just an actor in the television series I watch.
It looks like me. Will you go out with me now that you're 16? We began dating, and 2 years later we married. A few years passed, and we had our first son. He was 18 months old when my parents took me to the Hajj, a trip to Mecca that every Muslim hopes to make in his lifetime. That's when an imam overheard my accent during prayer and told me to divorce my wife. After that, we didn't follow Islam. Our decision shocked my family.
You're wrong, Firuz. Think of your family.
I think of no one else now. I spent 22 years of my life thinking about religion, and it was all a waste.
You will be punished for this.
Someday the true God will find me, and he will accept me just as he made me. Our second son was born. He was 2, and our older son was 4 as we drove one winter day in Tehran. There was snow and ice on the highway, and when the driver in front of me hit the brakes, I braked too, but couldn't stop. Our car slid off the road, and we rolled down the embankment, landing upside down.
Ah!
Are you all right, Jasmina?
Yes.
And the boys?
They seem to be okay.
We'd better get help.
Oh, people are coming down the embankment now.
I can't move my left leg. The pain. The people in the car behind us had stopped and took us to the hospital. I was the only one seriously hurt. A doctor briefly examined me.
Can you stand on your leg?
No, I'm paralyzed on that side.
All right, well, we'll get some x-rays and see what's wrong.
Can you give me something for the pain? The pain is excruciating.
We'll take care of you right after prayer time.
But
I have to go.
2 hours later, he returned to take the x-rays. I lay in pain without any painkillers. My first surgery took 5 hours, and the recovery took 2 months. Still no feeling in the leg. 5 years later, the doctor performed a second surgery that lasted 8 hours. Recovery took 3 months because of infection. Still, I was paralyzed. Jasmina supported the family, working 10 hours a day as a teacher and a hairstylist. At night, I had to wake her up to roll me over in bed.
Is that better, Firuz?
Yes, thank you. What would I do without you, Jasmina?
You won't have to find out, Firuz.
Sometimes I want to die because I am a burden on you.
Oh, don't talk like that. You'll get better someday.
It's been 14 years.
Your friend Hussein, he's a surgeon now.
I spoke to him, and he thinks I should go to London where they have better medical equipment.
Maybe we should.
What about the boys?
Oh, they're 16 and 18, old enough to stay here by themselves. Our family will look after them.
We flew to London and visited 4 different surgeons, getting 4 different opinions. One doctor proposed a radical opinion.
We place an electronic circuit board in his back with batteries on the left and right side that send signals to the left and right toe. The batteries would have to be replaced every 6 months.
And the cost?
£10,000.
That's $20,000.
Thank you for your suggestions. I'm not a millionaire and do not have that kind of money. Besides, if the batteries die and we don't have the money to replace them, what will happen to Firuz?
I faced a future on crutches or in a wheelchair and felt totally hopeless. I decided that suicide was the only answer. I would wait until Jasmina fell asleep. Then I would take painkillers and end my life. But I was so exhausted I fell asleep before she did. That night, an unusual idea came to mind.
You want to go to United States?
Yes.
I gave you too much pizza last night.
No, we must go and see what happens.
Firuz, we are Iranian, and you are in a wheelchair, and we don't have enough money to go. So how can you expect them to give you a visa to enter the U.S.?
Let's ask the hotel manager how we can get an appointment at the U.S. Embassy. The hotel manager laughed at us, and he said his daughter and son-in-law were Iranian physicians who were both denied visas to the U.S., and we were wasting our time. But I persisted, and he made us an appointment. We took a taxi to the embassy. Later, we called our sons in Iran.
You want to go to the U.S.?
Your father thinks he should go there for surgery.
Doctors in London couldn't help you then?
No, Navid.
Where would you stay in the U.S.?
Your uncle's brother-in-law lives in Seattle, Washington. We called, and we can stay with him. He's getting married in a few weeks, but we can stay till he goes back to Iran. He'll set up an appointment with a surgeon.
But first, we want to see how you feel about our going so far away. We've already been gone for weeks.
Dad, go. We want to see our father healthy.
Thank you, son.
Can you get a visa to the U.S.?
It's so amazing. Everyone said we couldn't get a visa. Even the counselor at the embassy discouraged us. An hour later, she came back and handed us our passports.
Refused?
No, approved.
In a moment, we'll hear more about Firuz's search for help. Unshackled is broadcast around the world and heard by millions of listeners throughout the day and night. These programs are translated by nationals who dramatize them in their own language, so the stories reach people who might not otherwise hear the good news of God's love and grace. Recently, we had an email from a 13-year-old who writes, "I was saved listening to your broadcast. God bless you guys." That's why we produce these testimonies, to bring the light of the world into the darkness of the human heart and to encourage believers in the faith. We get many emails from listeners telling how much these dramas help. Perhaps the Lord is leading you to tell us how your life was transformed by the Savior. If so, write us. Go to our website, unshackled.org, and click on Submit Your Story, where you will find details. Or you can write to Pacific Garden Mission, 1458 South Canal Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60607. Or email address unshackled@pgm.org.
With great hope, we flew from London to Seattle, where we stayed with our relative. He had arranged an appointment with a surgeon. After the exam and some tests, he gave me his diagnosis.
Well, I can't do anything for you.
Doctor, you have to help me. I can't go back to Iran this way. It's been 14 years.
Doctor, can't you do something?
Well, we can do a fusion between the bones of your back, but you might lose the feelings to the nerves that travel down your right leg, too. The pain could go away, but you might be paralyzed in your right leg also.
And the cost of the surgery?
$25,000.